So today we're back in Joshua chapter number 10, but we're going to jump around a little bit. Because we jump around, you may not want to turn to all the scriptures. I may hit them pretty quick. But I want to talk to y'all about the process to the power, or the prelude to the potential. Whichever one you want to call it, you're more than welcome. Or you could combine it and say the process to the potential power. Whichever one you want to call it, I'm perfectly fine with that. Because we like to jump into Joshua chapter number 10. We like to hear the verse, and we're going to read it again just for a refresher's sake in Joshua chapter number 10. This is what it says in verse number 12 and 13. Then spake Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of all Israel, Joshua said it in front of everyone, sun, stand still. Verse number 13. And the sun stood still. And there was no day like it before, and no day like it thereafter, where the Lord and the voice of God the Lord hearkened unto the voice of a man. And so Joshua said, sun, stand still. And God said, wow, what faith. Boom, I'm going to make it happen for you. So we believe that God is looking for us to have the audacity to act, that he has the ability to respond. But today, you got to realize there's more to Joshua chapter number 10 than just Joshua chapter number 10. This is why I asked y'all earlier this month to start reading through Joshua, because before the power happens in Joshua chapter number 10, there's actually a prelude to it. There are several steps that happen before the power happened, and it's indicative of what God wants to do for us, but you may have to go through a few things first before you can get the power that you're asking for. The prelude to the power. I got to thinking, and here's an illustration, kind of the best way I could put it. How many people in here like pork? How many people like pork? Bacon, pork chops, barbecue, ribs, something like that. Just about everybody. I'm getting hungry now. I'm going to cut this thing about 20 minutes short just so I can go eat something. But we all like pork. I remember when I was a little kid, and when I say little, I was probably about 7 or 8 at the time. It's been a long time since I've been little, trust me. But I was about 7 or 8 years old, and we were outside of Paducah, Kentucky, and I was traveling with my dad, and he's an evangelist, many of y'all know, and a guy in the church worked at a slaughterhouse for hogs. He worked there. Well, we homeschooled. We were home all day. And he said, hey, y'all ever go on field trips? Y'all ever go on projects? Y'all ever do stuff like that? My dad's like, sure. What have you got? He said, I work and I manage a slaughterhouse. He said, and we kill hogs. Would your kids be interested in coming and watching how we make sausage? Well, I'm a 7-year-old, man. I'm all in on that. That sounds awesome to me. We were never freaked out by blood and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, I'd love to see that. So Dad's like, okay. So we scheduled to go. So we get up, we pull up, this is massive, massive building, and out to the side of it's all these different barns, and there's little chutes running up into this, and it all kind of tied into this one chute into the back corner of the warehouse. And he said, okay, here's what I'm going to do first. He said, I want you to come to the front door. And we walked in the front door, and he opened up these big doors, and we walked into this freezer that had so much pork hanging everywhere, it was not even funny. There was slabs of ribs, slabs of bacon, there was ham hock, there was any kind of part of a pig that you want to eat on. It was hanging in this freezer by the hundreds of hooks filled with meat. Well, man, I'm a little kid. That was pretty awesome to me. He said, before you get here, though, and before we get to the goodness, I've got to show you the process that it has to go through before it becomes the potential of what you would see. He's like, follow us. So we walked back out of the freezer, and we went around outside, and we come to this chute that's running up into the back of the building. He said, what we're fixing to do, he said, a truck just came and brought in about 15 hogs. He said, we're going to run up down this chute. We're going to take them in that door one at a time. And he said, inside is where we start the process. At the time, we didn't know what it was. And so he's like, okay, well, the hogs are pushing each other, grunting. One of them runs up in there, you know, and he's just telling us about them and what kind they are. And all. I'm a 7-year-old. I could care less what kind it is or how many curls in his tail. I did not care. All I saw was hogs. So they're running around. Well, it gets down to like the final one hog, and that hog lays down and doesn't want to move. So we're standing there, and it's a split gap fence. And it's about A high. And there's huge gaps in it, splits. So we're standing there looking through it, and I'm looking at the hog right here. And my dad's over to the left, kind of to the back side of the hog a little bit. Well, the hog wouldn't move. He kicked the fence, he tried to reach in and push it, and the hog just sat there. So he went and got this little rod. And it's about yay long, and it looked like a little metal pinpoint on the end of it. He touched the button, and you could hear a little zzz. the electric rod. He touched the southbound end of that northbound cow. Just popped it one time, and that thing jumped straight forward. But here's the funny part. You have to know my dad. My dad goes nowhere without a suit and a tie. He just does not go anywhere without a suit and a tie. It's just his thing. He's dropped the suit a little bit, but he wears a tie riding the motorcycle, cutting the grass. I mean, he sleeps in one, takes a shower with one. I don't know why he doesn't. No, he doesn't do that. But he always wears a suit and tie. So he's standing there against the fence. This hog's about where the speaker is. When he hits it, there's a problem. That hog got a little loose coming down the road, if you know what I mean. When he touches it with that electricity, he blows stuff out his rear end all over my dad. Well, I'm a 7-year-old. That was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my lifetime. So y'all harken back, you know what I'm talking about. He touched that thing, he went, and just, my dad like, oh, what is that, man? And we're just rolling on the ground laughing. So he's like, I'm sorry, man, I'm sorry, I didn't know he was going to do that. Dad's like, yeah, he's sorry, son. You knew it probably happens every time. And he just laughed. And so he took us back in, and my dad like, took his jacket off, washed down his pants in the bathroom. It was just nasty. It was very nasty. And so we go into the place. He said, okay, let me take you around where they come in. And so where they come in, there was like a metal chute. It was just like a metal rectangle. And it had about 4 big metal bars with space about that big in between. Pretty high. And they run them in and they close the door behind them and it's just wedged up in there. And they would take live wire electricity and they would hit that hog until it basically killed it. They'd hit it, that hog go, it just blow up, man. It just stiffened. And one of them is a big old thing. It barely fit in. It reached out, it bit that metal bar, and man, it lit that joker on fire when he did that. And they would just kill and slaughter the hog. Some of you are like, oh, I can't believe you would do that. And then you go home and eat a sausage biscuit. I understood that. But anyway, it just happens. It's life, man. Next time you'll eat sausage, you'll remember that. And somebody sticking a hog somewhere. So they basically, till it's dead or almost dead, where it's just stunned, it's knocked out. And then they hook big ropes to its back legs and crank it up in the air. And then end up cutting it, letting it bleed out. And then they start the process. There was a guy standing there with a full suit on and all these different knives laying on the table. And he cuts it down the middle and starts taking the hide off. He's the first guy. Once he's got the hide kind of filleted off, he goes to the next guy. And the hide's hanging and the next guy takes it seriously. It's a chainsaw. I don't want to call it anything else. It is a freaking chainsaw. And he whacks the head off the thing and then cuts it right down the middle. And then cuts its backbone right down the middle and separates it into 2 halves. When it does, everything inside of it starts to come out. And they just throw a big bin under it. It's not a pretty process, I promise you. But then all of a sudden, just minutes in, we've gone from a hog who did what he did to my dad to now he's splitting 2 pieces and everything out of him just in a matter of minutes. No skin left on him. And then from there, they start cutting him up. They take out the ribs, they take out the hammock, they take all the different parts. And then basically what is left, they start deboning and scraping off and putting in this big old pot. And they're dumping in these big plastic buckets of salt and pepper and spices and all this different stuff. And they throw in all those extra pieces. And they throw in some filler. I don't know what the filler is, but they put some in there with it. And they throw it all in, and there's these teeth on the bottom that are just grinding, going all different directions. And basically, they just pulverize everything. And he just turns and turns till it's almost like a thick, chunky soup inside there. And then they turn on a vacuum hose, and through that hose comes solid sausage right into the little plastic wrap. And it goes, and just it seals it, pops it instantly, and just starts dumping it into boxes. Seriously, within 20 minutes, that hog had gone from being alive to being inside little wrappers just like that for me and you to enjoy on breakfast Sunday morning. Now, how many of y'all would love to eat a little bit of pork? Forgetting the story right now, because it may not be the most apropos time. How many of y'all like eating the pork and the sausage and the ribs? We still like it, right? But did you ever stop and think about the process that pig goes through to have the potential to feed you on a rainy Sunday morning? See, before we get the potential product, it has to go through a process. What many of us wouldn't want to do is have to go through that process to get the product. Well, in our spiritual life, we don't want to kill a hog. We don't want to have to hang a hog up and cut it and do all that just to get a little bit of sausage. When I go down to Ingles down here and get it for $2.99 a pack, why would I want to kill the whole hog? Well, here's what we've got as Christians. As consumer Christianity and we've become, and the consumerism part of us, we want the power, we want the product, we want the potential, but we don't want to have to go through the process to get it.